Good morning, and welcome to the South Dade Shoutout, brought to you by the South Dade Chamber of Commerce. My name is Richard Candia. I'm a business development manager for Florida Lamarck, a GC company here in Miami-Dade County. But I'm also very, very proud to serve as a board member for the South Dade Chamber of Commerce. Each week, we introduce you to members of the South Dade Chamber, members of the community, decision makers, and show you what they do, what they do to help make South Dade the place to live, work, play, pray, and thrive. This week, we're talking about homes, we're talking about community, and we're talking about value. Many of us in South Florida, South Dade, we live in communities with associations. Who you select to manage the community can make a huge difference in the value and the quality of life of that community. Our guest today is Chris Cooney. He is the Business Development Executive with Affinity Management Services. Good morning, Chris.
Morning.
We've had a lot of conversation, you and I, in preparation for this, and it's property management is one of those things you know it when you need them, you know it when they're not doing their job, but otherwise it's kind of behind the scenes. It's kind of quiet. You take it for granted almost, no?
When it's well run, hopefully it's part of the community and it's running in the background.
Yeah. Well, how did you get interested in the property management industry?
So most of my professional background is in software sales. And a few years ago, I was in a position where I sold websites and resident portals to condominiums and HOAs. I had many clients here in South Florida, as well as in other parts of the U.S. And then about 2 years ago, the opportunity to work with Affinity presented itself. And while I had not been a community manager, other than being a president of my own self-managed condominium for a little while, I did that for a year, which I didn't realize how much that experience would serve me in the future, but it has. I joined Affinity and, having a really good time doing that.
We're going to get into it in detail here, but there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes for a property management group to do their job well. So give me, if you could briefly, what's the mission statement of Affinity? What is it that you promise and try to do?
So part of what we say is, our motto as a company is called Align, Execute, and Deliver. So aligning, what we really mean there is we want to understand from the board of directors, but really the entire community, what are the goals and challenges that community is facing and where do they want to be 12, 18, 24 months into the future. And we work together, we partner with them to achieve those goals.
The board members, and I'm keep on pushing things down what we're going to talk about. Let's talk about it now.
Sure.
Board members, also another group of people that perhaps a resident or an owner of a property has not really thought about the job that the board member or the responsibility that they have. That's changed, hasn't it?
I think now it's never been a tougher time to be a board member. First of all, it's a volunteer job, and most of these people have careers and companies that they run during the day. So this is something they do after hours or even sometimes during work hours. But there are a lot of demands, and of course, in a large community, a lot of people coming at them with making sure that things get done. So that's where we come in to help really ease that burden on the board.
So you're the staff to the board member.
Yes.
But you're really also relying on the vision, like you said, the vision of the board as a group where they want to be.
Yes. So that's the align part. Execute is really our day-to-day activities and also regular check-ins and revisits to make sure that we're on track for those milestones.
Okay.
And at Affinity, we break those down. So if somebody has an annual goal or project, we'll break that down into quarterly, monthly, and even weekly tasks so that we can regularly measure our progress. So if we're on track, that's great. If we're off track, what do we need to do to fix that to get back on track?
Communities are different sizes, but let's just talk about a generic community. Some of the responsibilities that a board has that is going to rely on a property manager.
So the first thing to remember is that the association is a corporation. Most of them are set up as nonprofits, but they have financial reports that they need to maintain and present. And it's difficult for the board to make intelligent decisions if they don't know the correct state of their finances. How much money do they have and where is it?
Right.
So that's a big part of what we offer is an accounting service to produce monthly statements that are both accurate and on time, and also day-to-day operations for the community.
And that's where the resident will see. And in other words, when we were talking, I was using my wife as an example. She has an investment property at a well-run community, by the way. We need to get you in there. But it's a well-run community. And whenever the assessments come in, or there's an increase in the dues, we want to know why.
Sure.
And so you guys help the board member be able to explain that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're part of the budget process for the community's annual budget. So for us, that starts usually about August, September, and during this time of year, associations are going to finalize their budget and then vote to approve that moving forward for next year. So we have a lot of activity there. A big part of that is understanding how accurate this year's budget was, if there were any variances, and also making sure that we review existing contracts to look for, sometimes they have automatic increases built into the contract. So we have to prepare for that and make sure that next year's budget is as accurate as we can make it.
What about maintenance issues, regular maintenance, a schedule of maintenance, a history of maintenance?
Yes, that's really one of the most noticeable things from a resident's perspective. You just said that the dues are going up. A resident says, "Oh, we're paying the management company all of this money. Where is it going?" So
I've never said that.
as somebody that walks a lot of properties, it becomes very clear when you walk into a community to see if that property has been maintained on a proactive basis or if things are just done more of a fire drill reactive type of style.
Okay.
And that's something at Affinity we take pride in taking a very proactive approach to maintenance.
Okay, so we've talked about a generic community. We've talked about the need of a board to have good budget information. We've talked about the ability for a board member to explain to a resident why certain things are doing. That's what a property management company needs to do, needs to assist. What does Affinity do better?
So I like to tell people that Affinity is a very process-driven company. We have two principal owners. One is an electrical engineer by background. The other is an Army combat vet. So
gosh,
everything in our company is about
precise.
A checklist and a process.
Checklist.
And that mentality permeates the whole organization, both inside the office and also out in the communities. I think the value that we deliver the residents, certainly from a maintenance standpoint, is when we sign a new client, we do a full, thorough inspection, inventorying all community assets. So anything that needs maintenance on an ongoing basis, a pool pump, a gate motor, elevators in a high-rise, we're going to have that into our system, and then we're going to proactively set up quarterly, annually maintenance service tickets, work orders, so that we have a detailed history of those assets and the condition that they're in, plus any break-fix type of events that happen.
Well, the cliche of a military person of a certain level, from a certain branch, it rings clear. It's the information, very clear, very concise, very precise.
Absolutely. Yeah? I like to say it's like a car. I drive a very old car. It's paid off. If I keep changing the oil on time, I can get a lot of life out of that car. Whereas if I didn't take any care of it, it's going to fall short.
Right.
So
that's what and then the engineers are. Geez, I can't believe you don't have anybody. That's actually, excuse me. That must be very comforting. All jokes aside, that must be very comforting for a board to meet those two principles.
Right, and probably a little insider tip is that when we do sign a new community, we work with the board and we like to present a list of, here in the first 60 days, here are some actions that we can take that will spruce up the curb appeal of the whole community. Yeah. And residents, as they're driving around, when they see the clubhouse parking lot has been restriped, or the curbs have been painted and the landscaping looks nice, there's a sense of pride in the community, and it helps the board. The residents say, "Oh, they're on top of what they're doing. They made a good choice in selecting this management company." So,
how does this? I hope this question comes out correctly. How does a board member, excuse me, a board member assess the effectiveness of the management company that they're working with? Is it by the information you guys are providing them, the reports that they have, or is it the feedback that they're getting from the residents?
I'd say a mix of both. Keep in mind, in any association, I don't know that you're ever going to make 100% of people happy. There's always going to be somebody that doesn't like some aspect of community life. But communication is really, really important. And with Affinity, what we promise is to the board, every close of business, every Friday, they're going to get a weekly report from our manager of all of the major activities that have happened.
Oh,
so
wow.
work orders open and closed, any updates on major projects, also any delinquencies or any units that are changing hands, so estoppel requests. So, and we send a slimmer version of that to residents, I believe, twice a month, because people really want to know what's going on.
Okay. Excuse me. I gotta. If you were speaking directly to property owners, not board members, or
Right.
property owners,
Mm-hmm.
and they're engaging with their board, what advice could you give them as to what should they consider when it's time to select a new property management company?
So for the residents, I always like to say, be involved at least to the level of knowing how your money is being invested and spent.
That's good advice for just about everything. No, I mean,
When I was a board
elections
president,
and-
one of the toughest challenges we had was apathy. Nobody wanted to get on the board. Nobody wanted to take care of projects. Just let somebody else do it. And unfortunately, in this business, once in a while you get, I know earlier this year there was a board president being walked out of the lobby in handcuffs because he had been stealing from the association. And those bad actors thrive in those environments where there's a great deal of apathy. Mm-hmm. Nobody cares, just let somebody else handle it. So for those individual unit owners, they have a right to know the finances of the association, and that's part of that website and portal technology that I sold.
Now, how do you then, sorry to interrupt you,
Sure.
but how do you then advise and guide a board?
Mm-hmm.
And let's just, again, this is our generic community, generic board, well-intentioned people.
Right.
Okay, but their time is limited. They're trying to do their job, but they got things going on. How do you advise them to promote that type of interaction with the community?
So again, communication is really paramount, and that's one of the complaints I get from communities or boards when they're calling, asking about management services. They're unhappy with accounting, they're unhappy with maintenance, and they're unhappy with communication and follow-up. Those are really among the main top-level concerns that we get. So letting residents know that this information is there. And in a lot of cases for these communities, it's required that they have that website with a password-protected area where owners can go in and see the finances and understand what's going on in the community. But every 90 days, we have what we call a check-in with the board.
Okay.
So not just the community manager, but also one of the executives from our regional director, and measuring our progress. How are we doing? Are we on track? Or if there's something that's where we're falling short, let's have that uncomfortable conversation, but let's figure out a way together that we can work forward and grow from it.
It sounds like a lot of hand-holding. You don't ever let go of the hands. You guys are...
No, and actually, I'd say one of the things, too, I find, so when I sold the websites, I worked with almost every management company in town.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them feel like if we just put a good team on site, they're good to go. Let them figure it out how to work. And at Affinity, that we feel like that's a good start. But I believe we separate ourselves in the market by providing that additional support from the regional director, from the other leadership within the company. And let's say, so you might have a great manager, but that person gets in a car accident and they're going to be out for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
By having the regional director involved, there's going to be continuity. And support of, rather than just sticking a brand new manager in there that doesn't know what's going on and is going to take 2 to 3 months to figure it out.
That engineer and that
it really matters.
Armed Forces had a baby, it'd be Affinity. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what it sounds like.
And for the boards, I try to recommend as much as you can, take advantage of opportunities for education. And in fact...
We're going to get there because I do have something else I want to ask you, South Dade specific. I know Affinity manages buildings in the beach, and that's one kind of building, one kind of client. What's the difference? What is the difference, or what is unique about the communities in South Dade that you're engaged in?
So in South Dade, we have some large communities that are, most of them are gated. They're HOAs. Many of them have a pool or clubhouse. We've been able to acquire clients that are in the process of turnover from their developer for quite a few.
A lot of new construction in South Dade.
Absolutely. I live in the Upper Keys, and I experience
that, yeah.
the traffic as coming up here like we all do. But, we've been contacted at times when the developer is turning over control to the owner-led board now, and those communities will have to purchase their clubhouse. So we've been very successful setting the community up for success so that they have the adequate staff, but they also have the reserve funding for repairs and maintenance of the clubhouse and the pool.
Silly question. The reserve type of requirement on an HOA, is that the same as what the condos are going through?
Great question. And no, it's not the same. HOAs typically are not required to have reserves, but certainly it's a good idea.
Sure.
So a roof is, let's say, a 20-year asset that may have several $100,000, if not $1 million cost. If you don't have that set up in reserve, then you have to either borrow or pass the hat and do a special assessment.
Yeah, and you have some of those communities, like a townhouse, where they have a shared roof.
Correct.
And so if there's a leak over here, well, I'm sorry, and neighbor, everything has to get changed.
That's correct.
Yeah.
It can be quite complex in that regard.
Yeah.
Now, condominiums are regulated much more, and they have stricter requirements for reserve funding.
Now let's get to the education thing, and I'm sorry I interrupted you on that, but I'm glad you brought it up. There is a inherent responsibility now for new potential board members. Board members need to be more educated. Even the HOAs, they all need to be more educated because things are much more serious now. No?
Very true.
What does Affinity do to help their board members and maybe potentially just the community?
So every month, Affinity hosts public webinars, and in fact, we have one tomorrow discussing elections. And we have a guest speaker. Tomorrow's guest speaker will be Emily Gannon, a partner with K. Bender Rembaum law firm, and they're going to be talking about best practices for elections, who is eligible for an election, because, for example, a member that gets behind might not be eligible to run for the board.
Oh, sure.
So those are important practices. In South Dade, we see a larger adoption of electronic voting. When you think about our population, people are scattered between snowbirds and international investors, and then those of us that live here full time, people just being very busy. So a lot of communities are adopting electronic voting, and we discuss some of that. But every month we try to have a topic that's of value to the community.
And Priscilla's scrolling down at the bottom of the screen for you. That's open to anybody?
Anybody can sign up. If you have any trouble with the registration link, my contact information is there as well. Find me, and I'll make sure you get invited.
You encourage folks. So if I'm an owner in a community, if I have time, jump on.
Absolutely. You're welcome to.
If I'm a vendor that wants to sell things to HOAs or to jump on.
Yes. And we, as a management company, we want to maintain relationships with those vendors. It always happens that, let's say, after a hurricane, the vendors that you have may be super busy, or it may be just peak time of the year. So it's always good to have multiple vendors in a specific category that we maintain relationships with.
Right. Let's touch on that a little bit, because you did mention that to me, that one of the things Affinity tries to do is to introduce itself not just to the residents of the new community that you're working with, but also to the community at large.
Sure.
How do you do that?
We actively reach out to vendors, and there are a few that we've worked with repeatedly, and then maybe when we sign a new community, they may have a great landscaper or painter that we haven't worked with. We try to get to know them so that we can find potentially other opportunities for them, and they for us. It's a referral type of relationship. But
does it make sense if I'm a small business member of the chamber, if I'm a small business business owner? Does it make sense to reach out directly to you, directly to Affinity?
Absolutely.
And say, hey,
yeah, I'd love to have coffee with them and figure out. Well, I try to ask what is a good fit for them. Do they care about a certain part of town, or a certain type of property? And it's always good to know people.
We're coming in just coincidentally at a time of year when a an active HOA and an active property management company kind of takes the time to show itself. No, they put the lights up and the
Sure.
and make everything look really, really nice. That doesn't happen just by you guys have the budget for it. You have to make the time for it.
True.
So that started way back when.
It's funny too. I've had a couple of communities where a lot of them will outsource to a third party to decorate, and it can be pretty pricey. I've had a few boards will say, "Well, I can go get the same lights at Home Depot or Lowe's and do it." So there is potentially an opportunity to save if the cost is a concern, and operate that. And we're happy to work with our communities that way.
Sure.
I've seen, since COVID, I'd seen an increasing emphasis on lifestyle elements within communities.
Explain.
So that things like 4th of July celebrations or food truck Fridays, we've been happy to coordinate those types of events.
Sure.
A lot of communities do Halloween events for the kids. And it's another thing that helps bring the community together and instills a bit of pride in the community. And I think that adds to the value of living in that community.
And we started off by talking about the quality of life. I think that's also a really, really important thing. The industry as a whole, where do you see the industry changing in the next 5 or so years? More tech, more interaction? Is there something else that's...
I think more tech is a trend.
What kind of tech?
I mentioned electronic voting earlier as one example. There are a lot of different software tools for communicating and at Affinity we embrace that where it can make us more efficient. So for example, enforcing rules and violations, there's something you can run on a smartphone so that the person going around doing the inspection can, if Rich has left his trash cans out too late, we can snap a photo and it's got a time date stamp on there.
Somebody else named Rich.
Right. It's not you, Rich,
Not
but
me, right.
that's right. But so further embrace of that, I've heard some discussion of AI, and I think AI, there's potential there, but I would say also digitizing records. That's another activity that we see in a lot of communities.
I mentioned to you, because I also am a realtor, and every once in a while I have something going on. You can tell the difference between if you're a property owner and you want to sell or rent your property, that's your right, and there should be a process that's at least easy to understand, so you can get your money, sell your asset, or rent it as quickly as possible.
Absolutely.
And I've run into property management companies that make it difficult, and others that have it streamlined.
It goes back to the communication part I was talking about earlier. So let's say, for example, you want to have a tenant application. That's something that we can put the process and the application itself on the community website. And there may be showing instructions that are applicable to all realtors as they come into the community. So that's something that it's good to have that publicly available so that people know what to expect. And the process of submitting a tenant application, in the event that the association has to approve the tenant, let's make it easy to list out the documents that they need to submit. You don't want us having to chase you down for documents that you would have turned in if we told you needed them.
Sure.
Right.
You mentioned the property manager, the on-site. Is there a threshold that determines which community has an on-site and which another one has more of a part-time?
I'd say it's up to the individual community. At Affinity, my guideline usually is an HOA that has 400 units or more that usually will have somebody
Should
on
have
site.
somebody on site.
If they only have 100 units, they might have what's called portfolio management, where the property manager splits their time between that community and 7 or 8 others, and they come by once a week. They manage vendors, and the company provides accounting services.
But if I live in a community that has a property manager that's on site, does that on site manager have other communities that they're being stretched out to?
With us, no. We place people that are dedicated to that individual community.
It's a full-time job.
It is.
It's a full-time job. Do me a favor, react to this.
Okay.
A good property management company protects an owner's investment by staying ahead of maintenance, preserving asset value, and ensuring the community operates smoothly and compliantly. Good means proactive, not reactive.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
I talked about that earlier. Like you have a lifespan of your asset. Let's say, example, for a roof. And those communities that do a reserve study, it will actually spell out remaining lifespan of those assets. But usually you can squeeze a little more time out of that with proper maintenance, proactive maintenance.
What role then can a property manager or a management company, realistically, what can you do to help a community change its risk profile? We're a generic community.
Sure.
We've interviewed, we selected you. You come in. What's the process?
So part of what we do is evaluate the budget and see how much is being spent on what.
So, but we signed the contract December 1st.
Correct.
You're going to start January 1st.
That would be pushing it, but usually we like to have about 60 days.
Oh, no kidding. Before you even come on.
Yes. And there's work that we do, and frankly, we don't charge for that ramp-up period, but to ensure that both parties are successful, the community and us, we want to make sure that we can hit the ground running, and that takes some time to gather contracts and to set up the signing authority for invoice processing and things like that. So there's a lot to do on the front end.
Okay, and hopefully that transition with the company leaving is
absolutely
smooth.
Yes.
And
they're
frankly, not burning the files or gluing the stuff.
A lot of the people that call me are already with another management company, and for whatever reason, the relationship hasn't worked out. But we're all regulated and professional enough that if we were taking over a community from XYZ company, they have an obligation to share information and documents, and we would in the reverse scenario.
Okay.
But from a risk profile, I say it's always very important. Security and access control has become a really big issue with crime and people getting on the property. But not just that, but negligence. So any vendor that's coming into the community, we want to make sure they're properly vetted, that they have the insurance and the bonding and the background checks of the people coming into the community.
Sure.
I think that gets overlooked a lot. Everybody knows a guy with a truck, and they want to save a few bucks, and they bring somebody on that all of a sudden they break something or they harm somebody, either through negligence or through criminal activity, which does happen.
Right.
So whatever we can do on the front end to vet those people coming into the community, everybody is better off for that.
And have the other thing is to have whatever rules you not you but the board with your help set, that they're applied equally amongst everybody.
Yes. So that's another thing that gets during that transition period as we introduce ourselves to the community. A lot of times what we're doing is reminding the people of what the rules are. Right? Every community has rules. We at Affinity didn't make those rules, but we're enforcing the rules that are there.
Okay.
What I have heard a lot from sometimes boards are frustrated that everybody has a different color fence. Well, what are the legal colors of your fence? And sometimes the board member doesn't know. Well, how can the residents know if you haven't shared that with people? And we don't want to come in as the stormtroopers now cracking down on everybody. We're not there to generate revenue from fines. What we want to do is just let people know what's acceptable. I'm a Clemson grad, so if you were my neighbor across the street and we had no rules, what's to stop me from putting up a purple roof with big orange tiger paws, right?
Yeah,
you might not like the look of that.
No,
so
nobody will.
The community might say, okay, let's everybody do a black or a gray or whatever's acceptable. So part of our job is to remind people, hey, these are the rules. We're going to be checking on this.
It's good to see it. It's good to know. The webpage, actually, in the association that my wife has a property, it was kind of a recent thing. It was kind of a new thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't automatic. The way that you guys are describing it, the way that you operate. The embrace of it has been pretty good.
I like to think so, and it's funny. People will call and ask for information that is available on the website. So there's that education of what's available on the community website.
Yeah.
People find Affinity's website. A lot of times they find us through Google. We have, I'd say, more than 1,000 reviews.
Some of the more specific issues that homeowners, residents, and property owners run into, and how a good property management company can help them can help them overcome those issues.
Sure.
I think we'd like to do that.
That'd be a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to introduce you to our webpage, southdadechamber.org, where you could find a lot of information about the chamber, about how to join, about the benefits of being a member, and some of the upcoming events that we have. And let me go through some of those right now. We have the Christmas party and toy drive at Sushi, said it better that time, Sushi Saki Homestead, December 10th from 6:30 to 8:30. We have the South Dade Chamber monthly luncheon, January 15th from 11:30 to 1, and that's at a place yet to be determined. And then the event that you cannot miss, the State of South Dade, February 5th from 8:30 to 11:30. It is the event of the year, every year. Miami-Dade, it's going to be held this year at the Miami-Dade College Homestead campus. We'll be talking more about that in the next few months. Chris, it's been a lot of fun. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Rich. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much.